Now before anyone comments, yes, I know MatPat literally just did a video on this topic, but, behold, the fields in which I grow my lay your eyes upon it and see that it is barren. So I don't usually do video game or internet-based topics unless something happened in the virtual space that ended up having severe repercussions in the real world, but I figured, this close enough. Honestly, I hadn't heard about this incident until one of my buddies dropped something about it in my Twitter DMs back in February, when we were aware that some was getting real, but it wasn't like that real. I thought, maybe this'll be a fun episode when we're laughing at this little virus scare in a month. Wait, it's a full-blown pandemic now? Oh, I'm Vibby, and on this episode of A Space Alien Explains, the Corrupted Blood Incident. So February might have felt like 5 years ago, but you wanna know what will never feel like 5 years ago? World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft is motherfucking eternal. For those of you who live under a rock, off the grid, or are just new to this part of the big wide galaxy, World of Warcraft is a massive multiplayer online game released in 2004 by Blizzard Entertainment. On September 13th, 2005, Blizzard introduced a new update to the game, which included a raid dungeon called Zul'Gurub. The end boss Hakkar the Soulflayer was capable of inflicting a debuff on player characters called Corrupted Blood, which sapped 250 to 300 points of damage every few seconds. It sounds like a lot, but the average max HP of player characters participating in the raid was around 4,000 to 5,000 points, so 300 points every few seconds isn't hard to manage unless you're a f***ing idiot. The debuff was only supposed to stay within the confines of the raid area, and for the most part it did just that. Players would no longer have the debuff when they left the raid. Creatures summoned by players during the raid would also be affected by Corrupted Blood, but for some reason the debuff remained active on them even after they left the dungeon. Clearly someone at Blizzard missed a spot check. So your pet leaves the dungeon with a health-sapping status condition. No big deal, right? Oof, is that what Corrupted Blood does to pets? What? What do you mean that's what it looks like normally? The unique thing about the Corrupted Blood debuff was that it could be copied onto other player characters just by getting in close proximity to an already afflicted character. And by afflicted character, I mean any afflicted character. After the raid, players would go visit the crowded towns with their corrupted blood-ridden pets, and then they'd have Fido come out to say hi to everyone in the town square. And that's when hit the fan. Fido was now infecting everyone with corrupted blood, which means Corrupted Blood got out of the confines of the raid area. You had one job. Lower-level players with not as much HP were swiftly pushed off the virtual mortal coil within a few minutes of catching Corrupted Blood, while higher-level players fared much better. It didn't really matter though, since towns were literally piling up with the corpses of murked characters. Needless to say, the community went absolutely f***ing nuts. Players fled the urban areas for the countryside. Some volunteered their healing services, while others tried to direct people away from the infected areas. Some players even took advantage of the mass pandemonium and began purposely infecting other players, because bioterrorism is funny when there aren't any real stakes. At least they weren't hoarding toilet paper. Unless... Hey Pask, can you take a shit in World of Warcraft? It wasn't hard to get Corrupted Blood either. If you didn't get it from another player passing by, then you got it by talking to the shopkeeper. Yes, the NPCs could also get infected. Blizzard had one job. Blizzard tried to implement quarantines on certain areas, but it wasn't taken seriously by many players. Not while they still had disease-ridden Fido in their back pockets ready to restart the storm whenever they goddamn well pleased. Blizzard was eventually forced to fix the problem by hard resetting the servers and applying quick fixes. The plague ended on October 8th, 2005 when Blizzard made pets unable to be affected by Corrupted Blood, thereby making it unable to exist outside of Zul'Gurub. You know, like it should have been in the first place? One job. The CDC has had particular interest in this event, seeing it as a potential model for how people react to plagues in the real world, which is interesting for sure, especially in this day and age. You've probably noticed the parallels between the virtual Corrupted Blood plague and the real-world age of the Rona. But what did the players think about Blizzard accidentally unleashing mass game over on an unsuspecting community? For the most part, they thought it was pretty awesome. Yeah, there were players who avoided the game altogether until the issues were fixed, and a few others who actually called in to complain about their dead characters, but posters in the forums debated whether or not Blizzard actually pulled this shit on purpose. In fact, the Corrupted Blood plague was such a huge success, Blizzard actually unleashed another plague upon the game a few years later. Yes, God. Spanish flu was so much fun. Give us another! The Great Zombie Plague of 08 was described to be more true to life. The transmission rate of corrupted blood was 100%, whereas the zombie plague was low risk unless you encountered a large mass of infected individuals. There was also the Green Fire incident in 2017, which involved another broken debuff that got passed the same way corrupted blood did. Did the CDC knocking on your door not teach you anything, Blizzard? But they had the Green Fire thing under control in a day. Remember, kiddos, there is no server reset to get rid of deadly plagues in real life. So wear your masks, stay inside, and stay safe. Hi everyone! Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. This week's featured fan art is by Kitties Jr. on Twitter. Link to the artist page is in the description. And here's some comments from the last video. If this episode made you want to unleash a plague on your favorite virtual hangout, please be sure to drop a like and hit that subscribe button if you want to see more content like this. If you'd like to support the channel, I have art commissions and a Ko-Fi page available. Buy me a coffee and I can make you a sketch as a way of saying thanks. Links to all that, as well as links to my social media, are in the description. Thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you real soon.